And welcome back. Round 3 of 5 here at Epic Loot in Centerville, Ohio. We are Dayton Magic Club. I am Ryan Johnson. I am joined in the booth by
Scott Campbell.
Thank you for joining us. And here we go. We have seen so far tonight, last round was a sort of Abzan Outlast deck with, I forgot the name already, High Sentinel?
Yes, High Sentinel of Erebah or what? Yeah, there it is.
Arishin.
Arishin.
Sort of the engine. A lot of ways to get his +1/+1 counters distributed. Beat Mono Red, the Mono Red heroic deck piloted by Logan Dice.
Yes.
Jill Mead beat him. Round 1, we saw a Mono Blue and Soul Artifact engine, which we are calling
Blue Steel,
which we like that name a lot. Beat another Mono Red deck. This one more of a traditional Mono Red aggro deck.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of tokens.
Yeah, not a good night for Mono Red so far.
No.
But what are you going to do?
Right.
So this is round 3. We don't know exactly what is being played. These guys are undefeated. This is our table 2.
Yes.
We're going to get you high tables, generally speaking. We want to show a variety of players under the camera. We want to show a variety of deck lists. So it's going to be in our first couple of tables. And we'll definitely show you the finals should they decide to play it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, Russell and Jesse are both local to Epic Loot. I know Russell was on a Mono Black Devotion plan last standard. Some players seem to gravitate towards like a same or a similar type of strategy.
Sure, absolutely.
From one standard to the next. So we'll see if there are black spells in his deck. Jesse, I'm not sure, but you know it's new standard. I'm ready for the surprises.
Could be anything. I'm excited. I'd love to see some pits get emptied tonight.
Yes.
I'd love to see him empty the pits for like a huge number.
That's a card we should run in our deck.
Yeah, we should run that. Liliana can bring it up.
Yep. Brimaz, I think, would be an inclusion in the sideboard.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, both players keeping their hands. That's
a Temple of Silence.
Temple of Silence.
Finally, we're seeing that Temple.
Yep.
I'm maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I'm hoping some blue from Jesse next turn.
Yeah, all right. And
Temple of Triumph.
Temple of Triumph. So these decks look like we're not going to see another Mono Red aggro list so far.
Thank goodness. I mean,
I love Mono Red.
I know.
I don't think it's particularly well positioned right now. I'm not stunned that we saw it lose. So, but anyway, about this match. So, temples, especially people early temples, make me think that we're going to see a Mardu mirror.
Looks like
A mid-range Mardu, I'm assuming, because again of the temples. If you're on an aggro plan, you're going to want to run more like fetches and basics and mana confluences and whatnot. That's a Thoughtseize. All right, the old boogeyman. Oh, this is Jeskai.
we on the it looks like the Jeskai.
I see a Jeskai Charm, some burn spells. Is that a Sarkin?
Manus Rider and a Sarkin.
So yeah, this is I understand calling it a tempo deck. It's not a true tempo deck. It's hard to play a true tempo deck in standard. Tempo is one of those hard terms to. First of all, what do you take here? Do you take the Sarkin, or do you take the? I mean, I guess it depends what's in your hand, right?
I think I take the Sarkin. Unless you have an utter end, I think you take the Sarkin.
And even if you have a Hero's Downfall, you'd much rather downfall the Mantis Riders and have the Sarkin be in the graveyard.
Yep.
But we see Shivan Reef Pass. Tempo is, Magic's all about exploiting some aspect of a limited resource. And some decks are card advantage decks, which they're getting more cards in their hand, and that's a scarce resource. And some decks are aggro decks, and they're turning their cards into damage efficiently, which is reducing your opponent's life total, which is a scarce resource.
Right.
Tempo decks want to take better quality turns than their opponent. So you want to play a threat. You want to disrupt your opponent a little bit. You want to keep advancing your game plan while simultaneously setting your opponent's game plan back a turn.
Kind of like how Jill was doing to Logan last turn.
That would be a good example of a tempo positive play. So this Jeskai deck, it's definitely, and there's a Mantis Rider eats a Lightning Strike.
Yes.
You definitely want to Lightning Strike that Mantis Rider. That is a good Magic card.
It is a must kill.
So I can see that because cards like Mantis Riders are tempo positive plays because they get to attack and then hang back and block that same turn,
Mhm.
which means you get to take better turns. Jeskai Charm is a great tempo card. We see another Thoughtseize here. Very likely here to take possibly Jeskai Charm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most flexible card in the hand.
I would consider the Magma Spray just because of the Scry, but we have a Bromaz on the board.
Oh my.
Bromaz, Bro of Cats. We were just talking about it.
We were.
So, by the way, you're 2 for 2. Because I think last round you're like, we haven't seen any of the wedge color decks
You're
yet.
absolutely right.
And ta-da!
So, but this is really, this Jeskai deck is definitely a cousin to the old Red White Burn deck.
Mm-hmm.
You had to splash another color because Jeskai Charmer is too good of a burn spell.
Yep.
Mantis Rider is definitely the new Chandra's Phoenix.
Right.
That sort of thing. But your definitely goal is to get your opponent down to like 12 life or so, and then like Jeskai Charm, untap, stoke the flames, and you get your opponent dead from there. So you finish them off in a flurry of burn spells, which means Jesse's at 12.
Yep.
I don't know how worried you are about this Bromaz if you're Russell, depending on how your draw shapes up. It's a good clock, but you're currently winning this race in a general sense. I mean, not on board, but your deck is designed to win this kind of race. Left in the deck are like 6 spells that deal 4 damage.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, if you draw one of those, you're good.
We'll see.
Something else appears to be happening.
And well, that's going to make it a little
Butcher
harder.
of the Horde?
Yes, that is a Butcher of the Horde. My pick for favorite card out of this set. I love this kind of effect. Falcon Wrath Aristocrat was my favorite Magic card ever back when that was in Standard. This is no Falcon Wrath Aristocrat, but it's the closest analog we have.
Yep. Plus, it helps Jesse recover life that he lost from Thoughtseize.
Absolutely.
Any damage. So.
From his lands. Yep. It's a great Magic card. And we're going to make this race all of a sudden very hard to win for Russell without an answer for the card.
Yes.
Because when we talk about tempo, a lifelink vigilance card is positive play.
Indeed.
He's going for the Skull with Jeskai Charm, which has to make you nervous if you're Jesse. Because otherwise putting that Butcher back on top is pretty tempting if you're not just like dead. So we'll see. It's a 4th land. Significant number because you can now stoke the flames without having a creature to invoke.
Yes.
Also, stoke with Mantis Rider is awesome. Because you get to attack with it and then stoke the flames.
Heck yeah.
The card is sweet.
It's pretty darn good, but if you have Stoke the Flame, which one do you kill here right now?
Butcher.
Then you have to kill
because
before
it
he
can
can
lifelink.
attack. Yeah, that's... Okay.
So, Jeskai Charm is also awesome. Let him sack the creature, and then Jeskai Charm is a pretty sweet play.
Yep.
Make him draw it again, make him sack another creature to give it haste to get caught back up. It's interesting that we saw, I believe, from Jesse, he didn't attack with that Butcher the first turn, right? He chose not to sacrifice a creature to give it haste.
He played it post-combat.
Yeah, which is interesting. It certainly was a line you could have sacrificed a cat, for example.
Right.
And got another couple points in.
This appears to be a Sarkhan. And doing 4? Well, no, that can only go to creatures. Okay, so he becomes a dragon.
Yep.
And we sack the token to give him lifelink, and we're just coming in.
Yep. Looks like it. Doing some quick math.
Russell, you're just dead unless you have a Jester.
How dead are we? Oh, does the Butcher have... We're looks like we're still in declare attackers because the Butcher and Sarkhan both should tap to attack, I believe.
Yes.
Unless he gave the Butcher vigilance, but I don't see a good reason to do that. Yeah, there we go. If Sarkhan is attacking, he of course should also tap because he becomes a creature. That's not a huge deal here. We're going to see a Jeskai Charm put the Butcher on top, which I like quite a bit. Take 1,000,000. I mean, like, you really wanted to use that Jeskai Charm to take off half of Jesse's life, but also he needs to, live.
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah, I don't think the Sarkhan has vigilance. That should have tapped. So.
It can't block, so it's not the end of the world, but.
That's true.
I don't think he has a way to do it.
Oopsies.
Stoke can only get you halfway there because it tells you to tap out. Got close.
Interesting.
Yep.
I kind of wonder about his choice of Thoughtseize. We had this discussion kind of off camera a little bit. Thoughtseize over Despise.
Oh yeah. In this matchup, obviously, Thoughtseize is significantly better
Oh yeah.
because it can take Jeskai Charm. It can take Stoke the Flames. You can use it to proactively protect your threats. You can use it to gain 2 life by taking the Stoke the Flames. Um, I do think Despise, so far as we see the format shaping up, is very well positioned um, against these like Green Devotion decks, which we haven't seen on camera here, but have been popular. I know there are at least a handful of them in the room tonight. Uh, you get to, their decks are like half mana acceleration and half insane bombs,
Yeah.
and you get to look at their hand, and the more polarized your opponent's deck is, the better Thoughtseize is against it. Generally, the more redundant their cards are. If you look at a mono red hand and it's, do you want, which one of my 4 1 mana 2 power guys do you want?
Right.
Is a lot less appealing than if they have like Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid,
Genesis Hydra.
Pelugrinos.
Yeah.
You know, you get to like start cutting them off one half of that. Okay, you can have all the mana acceleration but nothing to cast. Or if you only have 1 mana accelerator, I'll take that, and it buys me a couple turns before you get your fatty down. So, Despise does that very well. Because against those decks, it takes their planeswalkers, takes their creatures. They don't play any spells. It's like a free Thoughtseize. So if I'm playing Thoughtseize in my main, I think I probably play Despise in my board.
See, I was thinking the other way.
Like, it's possible that the other way is true.
If we're going to see a lot of these mid-range decks where the spells are more to take care of what the opponent is playing, to answer their threats instead of respond to their threats, being able to take a Sarkhan, like on turn 1, if he would have cast Despise instead of Thoughtseize, it's 2 life he could have saved.
That's true.
By doing that. So there's a couple ways to look at that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Despise is a well-positioned Magic card. I think you're going to see it pretty frequently here. So we saw this Jeskai deck. It basically got Thoughtseized into oblivion. It only was left with like 1 good threat, which was swiftly answered with a removal spell.
Yes.
So, and like I said, you know, these burn decks, they use the creatures, and they typically play a package of 12 creatures. The common ones you've seen are Mantis Riders, Goblin Rabblemaster, and Seeker of the Way, which is the prowess guy that can gain lifelink.
Yes.
You've typically seen that be the common threat package, then some Sarkhans on the top end, or some Chandras, or whatever. But you're not a burn deck like, say, Modern or Legacy Burn, which has a ton of 1 mana spells that do 3 damage. So you can actually just, on turn 4, like, untap and just, like, light somebody up. You know,
yeah, you can.
Price of Progress can deal 6 damage at instant speed for 2 mana. Fire Blast can do 4 damage for 0 mana at instant speed. You don't have that capability, so you really need to get them in range, or you can be holding 20 points of burn in your hand, but you won't have the turns to deploy it.
Right.
You know, part of the trick was when learning how to play the red-white burn deck of the previous format, the one with War Leaders, Helix, and Boros Charm, and all these goodies we don't have anymore, was it was generally correct to unload your burn as quick as you could, because otherwise the burn was so expensive. It was all 2, 3, and 4 mana spells that you would end the game with lethal burn in hand, but short the turns you needed to cast it. I think this Jeskai deck suffers from a lot of the same problems. Its curve is high.
Yes.
And its burn spells, while being good, are a little clunky. So you really need to get them in range with one of these big single threats, and then kill them over the course of like 3 turns of burning them out.
Is it me, or did it kind of seem that way when we were like talking about maybe an Esper build, where things just kind of seemed clunky for the first few turns, and you have to find an Elspeth and just jam that in there?
Yeah. So that's kind of pretty common with these new formats. The power level goes down because you lose a lot of cards. So, see, we got to start with Scryland here. But I guess that's a long way of saying that I kind of like the way Jesse's deck is configured against this Jeskai deck. You can take apart, it's polarized. You know, it's got creatures, it's got burn spells. You can pick his hand apart by cutting him off one of those lines, and then you can use your removal to keep his creatures from getting you in range. And then we saw he turned the corner very quickly with Brimaz and Butcher the Horde and put a ton of damage out there before Russell could really deploy his burn. So we see Thoughtseize. Looks like a land-heavy hand from Russell.
A Sarkin and a Jeskai Charm.
This is the perfect kind of hand that Thoughtseize designed to
Goodbye,
attack.
Sarkin.
It's got one threat, one spell.
Yep.
So you can either take the spell and leave him with the threat, or vice versa, depending on what else is in your hand.
Right.
So,
and unlike Azurius Charm, Jeskai Charm cannot draw cards.
That's true.
So, good luck, Russell.
So yeah, exactly. What we see here is why Thoughtseize is so good against these polarized decks.
Absolutely.
That's a textbook example of a hand that's vulnerable to Thoughtseize. Now, I know from playing Red-White Burn that it's tempting to keep these land and temple-heavy hands because you need a lot of mana.
Yes.
For the deck to function well, and you just use the temples to front find action.
It kind of makes me wonder if he has boarded in Narset, keeping a hand so heavy on land.
Yeah.
Or maybe seeing that Sarkin and his opening grip was just tempting enough to try and run him out there.
I know I've seen Narset in the sideboard of these decks before. It's certainly a very powerful effect, and it seems like if you do have it, this is the kind of matchup you want it in. Removal heavy decks, they can kind of race you. Here's a Rabble Master.
Okay.
Is Rabble Master good? He says yes. And can I move to combat? He says yes, and you take 1 damage.
See, this is the guy that I think everybody has forgotten about Last Breath.
Yeah, I think Last Breath is good, partly because the 2-mana removal is so bad now.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Last Breath used to compete with things like Doomblade. And so here we see where before a 3-mana threat run the risk of eating a 2-mana removal spell much more consistently. And now you're willing to say, okay, you answered my Rabble Master, but it took your entire turn. Right. This is the concept of tempo we're talking about. That lets him untap and get ahead on tempo. Where if he would have had a 1 or 2-mana removal spell where he got to play 2 spells that turn, Jesse did, that tempo play wouldn't have been as devastating. But having to spend your entire turn at sorcery speed to tap out to answer your 1 threat from your opponent that left behind a 1/1 anyway.
Right.
That's a tempo negative play. So this deck does have some interesting tempo lines in it. And Mantis Rider is just a good Magic card.
Yes. Truth be told, Mantis Rider was recruited by the Boros Legion, but they didn't take it because it had blue in its name.
Yep, that's a sad story.
Yeah.
So we see another Thoughtseize. That is a Jeskai Charm, and I don't know what the card on top of it is exactly. Oh, Deflecting Palm.
Oh, nice.
That's a cool one.
Looks like a foil one, too.
It's really good. Deflecting Palm is the one, it prevents damage to be dealt to you from one source, and then deals the same amount of damage that source's controller. Cost a colorless, or a red and a white. It's good against Butcher of the Horde, for example.
Yes.
And really, in this deck, at worst, it's a Lightning Helix.
Right.
Where it prevents 3 damage, it gains you 3 life, and it deals you 3 damage. Because there's a lot of creatures, 3 seems to be a pretty average amount of power.
Right. Like, for instance, if he lightning struck the Mantis Rider, he could use the Deflecting
Doesn't
Palm.
work.
Wait, hold on.
Only redirects damage that's dealt
to you. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
New cards.
But all it is this is kind of a tempo-y card in the sense that it wins races.
Yes.
And if your opponent is racing and feeling like they're taking a turn to really swing out at you, it can really disrupt that plan.
Fritz Conrad, who was round 1 playing Blue Steel, he was playing a red-white aggro deck at the Star City event in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Deflecting palmed a monstrous Pelucranos for the win.
I love it. That's gorgeous.
So he comes up with some pretty sweet shenanigans. We got 5 mana here. We're going to run... Do we have a second Sarkin, or are we just going to play some spells?
So we're making piles here. So we're going to push in.
Just get there with the 3/3. Okay.
That makes me think we're going to stoke.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that means that Jesse is probably dead, because the only reason to do it that way is because you have a Jeskai Charm in your hand.
Yeah. Which he did... Jesse did see the hand.
Yep. He took the
so
deflection.
he should know it's there.
Yep.
There it is.
So that is how the Jeskai burn deck is designed to operate.
Yes.
Little bit of burn, but you get him in range with these threats, and you can see why people call it a tempo deck, because it was definitely he played a very tempo positive game that game. forcing your opponent to take turns off from advancing their own plan to react to your plan. So I like the way that game was. I like the way that game was drawn up. I like the way it was executed there from Russell. Certainly went a lot better. He got thoughts just a couple times that game too.
Yeah, just the variance of the game, I think, is what that's called. Any room for Monastery Swift Spear in this Jeskai Tempo deck?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so because your spells cost 2, 3, and 4, and it's going to be a 1/2 for the first couple turns. It's alive most of the time, I think.
Okay.
I think you want to be a little more flexible with when you deploy your spells and not feel the need to jam them. If you were playing more magma sprays and that kind of plan, maybe. I think the reason it can play the Secret of the Way, which is similar, is because the lifelink helps you win races. A lot of times you're going to get in races with aggro decks.
Plus, it's a 3/3 when you do that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. It attacks through more stuff. I think Swift Spear is a good Magic card. I just don't think this is necessarily the shell for it. I think if there is a Swift Spear deck, it's casting things like Titan Strength. Really cheap 1-mana spells that have a really high impact. A Titan Strength on a Swift Spear makes it a 5/3
or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, yeah,
so,
5/3.
Yeah, that's something.
What about this would be funny. What about Thoughtseize?
I think Thoughtseize would be sweet.
Thoughtseize.
Turn 1 Swift Spear, attack you for 1. Turn 2
Thoughtseize
you, attack you for 2. Like just, I think that's sweet. So we'll see. I think the black red interests me.
Like a Rakdos suicide type deck.
Yeah. Black shores up a lot of the weaknesses in red because red lost some of its powerful 1-drops. So you get things like Bloodsoaked Champion. I think are pretty helpful there.
Yeah.
Both players looking at their hands here. They both drawn for game 2 or game 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is our first game. Second game 3 of the evening.
Yep.
Last round, Jill and Logan, I believe, went to game 3.
Comes into play tap land. Is that the Mardu Triland, perhaps?
Yes, I'm seeing the Mardu symbol.
I don't know what that Triland is called, but it's one of that cycle there. Matched by, it looks like a Temple of Epiphany. Another Triland.
Double Triland.
And a Thoughtseize.
And a Thoughtseize.
Well, this Mardu deck is very mid-range, right? It doesn't really have a lot of threats that cost less than 3.
Right.
It really just wants to Thoughtseizing the early game, maybe Lightning Strike a guy, and then start playing its big, insane bombs.
Looks like
Stoke,
Rabble,
Master,
and 4 lands.
Yep. Looks like we take the Stoke, which means we have an answer for Rabble Master in our hand. So
absolutely.
It's why pairing Thoughtseize with diverse removal packages has always been a powerful thing to do ever since Thoughtseize was printed, because it lets you take the card you can't answer and leave even the better, more powerful cards in the hand that you have good answers to. So that was 1 black mana, gain 2 life, which is not irrelevant in this matchup.
Not at all.
And also is 1 black mana, protect my Butcher of the Horde or whatever. So Magma Jet U. Magma Jet, very powerful in decks like this. Scry is really good in these burn type decks because they are susceptible to drawing a poor mix of lands and spells, and it fixes whichever half you're having trouble with.
Yeah, card selection over card draw seems to be the name of the game in Standard right now.
This is true. Although I'm very excited about Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise.
Absolutely. Dig Through Time is pretty amazing.
That card is ridiculous. So
we know he has a 3rd land. So.
Yep, it's just a matter of sequencing here. On these 3-color decks, especially when some of your lands are going to come into play tapped no matter what, proper sequencing is pretty important. I think when you're under no pressure like this, and you can take a turn off to sculpt a little bit.
Right.
So, Russell knows what's going on here. If you have a Rabble Master in your hand, your opponent Thoughtseize, and they don't take the Rabble Master, it's not because they don't know Rabble Master is a good Magic card.
Right.
You really have to anticipate the removal spells, so maybe trying to play around that. I know some of these decks play God's Willing, that kind of effect in them, so maybe taking a turn off to try to set up a turn to protect his threat.
Yeah, that's something we've noticed with just a lot of the Standard decks and just general coverage since the new standard is that counter spells, even like negate, seem to be few and far between.
Brimaz. A good proactive answer to Goblin Rabblemaster.
I probably wouldn't have tapped the way he did. I probably would have tapped the mountain for the colorless mana and left up the black for one of your favorite cards, Murderous Cut.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think there's enough cards in his graveyard to represent Murderous Cut yet.
Could be. But gotta find a way to kill Rabblemaster. I always try and kill him like on site.
Yeah.
Not even let him get the one goblin.
Battlefield Forge is the land for the turn. So we have 4 mana.
Yep.
Good mix of colors.
I think if you have Stoke, you just like Brimaz.
Yep.
Another kill on site creature.
Sure.
Probably just kill it right meow.
We pass turn.
He's passing.
I mean, you can always kill it
Before combat.
before combat
That's
if
true.
that's your plan. So, you know, we're going to tap a bunch of mana here. It's going to be Sorin. Said, I have a response. No.
That's a disdainful stroke.
Yes, it is. That's awesome. I
Wow.
love Disdainful
We're
Stroke.
just talking about counter spells and
Yep.
boom.
So
There
that
it is.
counters a spell that costs 4 more.
Okay.
And so Brimaz does get in, deciding it's better to keep that Sorin off the table, which is very reasonable.
Yes.
It's a good Magic the Gathering card.
Sorin is really nice.
5 mana. Shivan Reef the land for the turn.
Sarkin.
Sarkin's good here, but not great because it's just a burn spell. Because he cannot protect himself. Brimaz gets him right back off the table.
That's true.
Even if he pluses. So stoking out the Brimaz is still a pretty good plan here, if that's available. Leaves him behind a 1/1 cat, but that's something you can race without too much trouble. If you don't have an answer to Brimaz, you have to start sculpting your game plan to say, how do I race it? It's a fun fact about Jeskai Charm that it doesn't have to target a creature in combat like Azorius Charm. So that is always an option. Now we are attacking with the Goblin Token because we have to.
Right.
And now it's Rabblemaster versus Brimaz. Brimaz wins that fight because he has Vigilance and 4 toughness.
Yes, he does. Scryland here. Looking for some value.
Of course, it does turn on Lightning Strike as a potential removal spell for Brimaz if your opponent gets cocky and blocks.
Yeah, there's the Hero's Downfall.
Hero's Downfall.
Do you have the God's Willing, sir? Negative. And here come the cats.
Brimaz will go unmolested yet again into the red zone.
Yeah, Hero's Downfall. Good card.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yeah.
Bringing Russell down to 12 life.
Yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of the decks that we're going to see, outside of the tempo deck, of course, are probably going to have some type of black in the deck. That at least the ones that are going to be at the top tables.
Yep.
Like, unless something happens crazy at the Pro Tour.
Well, you know, when you're exploring an unknown format, playing Thoughtseize and a really good catch-all answer like Hero's Downfall is a really good way to cover your bases.
Yeah.
No matter what your opponent is doing, those 2 cards will be effective. That is a Mantis Rider. That'll let him
sure
get into the
is.
red zone.
Do you have Lightning Strike?
Attack for 3. It will put him to 12 if it connects. It does. So now we're racing. Russell, of course, currently losing the race, but certainly has more reach in his deck. If you can get Jesse down to 9 and then maybe down to 5, that's getting really into the zone where you can just pick him off.
Right. But here's what you were talking about with Mantis Rider, where it can kind of hang back.
Yep.
Until it's utter-ended.
How about that?
Yep. And
yeah, so this deck, this Mardu deck, is almost just like a control deck. Just a ton of removal and then some hard-to-answer bombs.
Right.
We haven't seen Rabblemaster. I'm assuming Brimaz might be in that slot. Some decks play both. Skullia.
mean, if you're going to get hit with a bunch of cats, might as well just kind of toss that last burn spell out at you. I'm hoping for a Narset, just to
see it.
Just to see it.
Just to experience it.
Yeah.
Russell is dead on board. So he needs either to cobble together 9 points of burn or an answer to Brimaz.
Right. An answer to Brimaz without losing life from the M15, what I will call the Flame Jab lands.
Yes. I think that's as they are commonly known.
Yes. Someone's looking for a name for the refuge lands that are in cons.
Sure.
I was going to call them Pauper lands because they're probably the best lands ever for Pauper.
I love it.
That's a dig through time, sir.
I believe you are correct.
Let's look for Stoke to Flames.
Yes, I like that. I like dig through time a lot. This is the first time I've personally had much experience with watching it cast, so let's see. We get to look at 7 cards. We get to keep 2 of them.
Yes.
The other 5 go on the bottom of the library. I don't see a Stoke. I don't think. Stoke doesn't even do it. Yeah, it does. He buys him a turn.
Spring Verdict would be really good right here.
Yeah. No, Stoke doesn't. He has to take 2 damage from his land, so he dies to the cat tokens.
Yeah.
No, there's only 2 cat tokens, so yeah, Stoke buys him a turn.
Unless he has another Deflecting Palm in there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't really kill the Brimaz, but would at least prevent the 3
Man, if you
damage.
could get, like, Deflecting Palm Jeskai Charm or something and just, like,
yeah.
pull out the win that way would be pretty amazing to watch. Such fog you, kill you.
Yes. Yeah, and, he
didn't snap concede, so he's definitely looking for the line here.
Yeah, he only had 5 cards, I believe, in his graveyard. So he couldn't have just delved 6.
Okay. This is the he paid 3 for that spell.
Yep. 2 mana to play the Seeker of the Way.
Seeker of the Way.
Pretty good.
It's a 2/2 prowess, and when you cast an instant or sorcery, it gains lifelink.
Yes. Comes a 3/3.
So if you have a spell in your hand, this is a good way to gain a little life.
Or you can just play
or
Butcher.
You can just Butcher
you can
horde.
just go up top. Or, I guess, in the case of the 80s movies, over the top, like Rocky Balboa.
Exactly. So, well, that is unfortunate. Butcher the Horde showing how good it is in this matchup.
Butcher haste. You lose.
Deflecting Palm.
Sure.
Deflecting Palm, your Butcher. 5 to you.
Deflecting Palm Brimaz, maybe?
It has to target the source's control.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Can't redirect it as a creature. Now
he only attacked with the Butcher to deny him the possible lifelink.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that was a complete fog that turn. Which means if he draws a 4 damage burn spell, he actually managed to steal this game back.
Wow.
He's not snapping it off, though.
Nope.
But that he put himself in a line.
He's being a gentleman.
Where this he had an out. He had several outs left in the deck.
Yep. I believe both players are in top deck mode, or does Jesse have 1 card in hand?
Looks like he is Hellbent.
Okay. Yes.
Jesse trying to figure out whether he's being slow rolled here.
Right. There'll be a lot of that in the new standard.
Another Butcher of the
Hey,
Horde.
and they're not legendary, folks.
I will sacrifice a creature to give him haste.
Something happened.
Another.
That is not. It was not a Stoke to Flame.
What is that?
I don't know. Is that a Narset? The 1 card. Okay.
I don't know what that card was. It was not a lethal burn spell.
No.
Oh, it wasn't
It was
Narset.
Yep. 1 turn
Little
away.
late to the party, Narset. Little late to the party.
Like Narset attack, reveal, and play in hostilities. Let's just start the game over.
Or like any of the burn spells that win the game. There's that too.
Oh yeah, it's true because he was low on life.
Yeah, But Narset, a powerful card, I think very well positioned in this particular matchup, but a little late to the party.
Looks like Jeskai Tempo's run was utterly ended by Mardu midrange
That
here.
it was. I think the Mardu mid-range deck has a lot of powerful tools in this matchup. Thoughtseize is good at breaking up the game plan. All the removal spells keep the creatures from chipping you down to burn range. Butcher of the Horde is hard for the Jeskai deck to effectively race. A lot of good tools.
Absolutely.
Powerful deck. I like the Jeskai Tempo deck. That's not to say I don't, but I do think the Mardu mid-range deck does have some well-positioned tools there. That was round 3 of 5 tonight from Epic Loot in Centerville, Ohio. We are Dayton Magic Club presenting Friday Night Magic here for you all. Thank you for watching. We will be back for round 4 here in a little bit. Once again, we don't have the ability to do a backup future match here at the moment, so we're just going to work for just a couple of minutes.
Yep.
Be sure to check back with us for the start of round 4. And we will start to see this tournament wind towards its conclusion. We'll go scout the room, see what's doing well, see what match we want to bring you here in a couple minutes.
Sweet, and thanks for tuning in. Just stay there for a little bit, and we'll be back for round 4. You've called like all the matches, it seems like, before they happen, so maybe we'll see a green devotion deck next round.
Yeah, fantastic. I wouldn't be adverse to it. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you in a minute.